Hi, I'm George Kay and this is my father Niels. Welcome back to Father and Sonthesizer. This week we're going to be talking about another previous project, the Spring Reverb, and we're also going to be answering some comments and updating you on our wavetable synthesizer project. First, let's get started with the Spring Reverb. I've got some sound samples prepared for you. First, let's listen to some drums. Now I'm going to play some guitar through the Spring Reverb. And here we have some synth going.
Okay, so when we were looking to the website of Ray Wilson, the musicfromouterspace.com, we found an interesting project. It's named the Spring Reverb. I showed it to George and he was like, wow, I need this. Why do you need it, George?
Yeah, I really needed that because I've always been fascinated by spring reverbs. You know, that old surf guitar sound from the 60s and 70s, and I just loved it as well. Hearing it on the Moog Grandmother was really cool as well. So I really wanted one. And then one of your friends, one of your colleagues.
Yeah, Ole, he was traveling to the United States.
Yeah, he was.
And he was able to get me a vintage spring reverb from the 80s.
Yeah, that was
just wow.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Such a cool dude.
So finally we got the tank and we had the design from Ray Wilson. So I created a PCB from that.
Yeah, and I needed this spring reverb at that time. This was late January of this year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because we were building our first analog synthesizer rack meant for live usage. And this was really important there because we had a lot of dry sounds, a lot of electronic sounds, we had the drums, we had the synth lines, the 3340 VCOs we showed you last week, and that just sounded very dry and lifeless. So I needed something to give it a little more life, and that's where the Spring Reverb came in.
Once I had the PCB ready, I found that the build itself was quite easy. Actually, I would say it's a beginner's project, or mediate level maybe. Not really difficult, and it worked like a charm right from the beginning. The only trouble we had was connecting the Spring Reverb tank to the PCB.
Oh yeah, because the Spring Reverb tank had some RCA adapters which we knew nothing about at the time. But I knew I had some cables that looked similar lying around in a box somewhere, so we went rummaging throughout the whole house trying to find this RCA to 3.5mm stereo mini jack.
So that was good because the cables that came with the Spring Reverb, we didn't want to cut them. So now now we could connect them and disconnect
everything without destroying anything.
Yeah.
We had to build a custom 3.5mm stereo mini jack cable to connect it to the PCB, but that was a breeze.
Yeah.
I think we made that out of an old headphone cable because we didn't have any 3.5mm jacks.
That's true. Then we found that the microphone input stage, we don't use that because in our synthesizer all the line levels are really high. So we basically are not using the microphone input.
Well, it is going through the microphone input, and if I even turn the knob so much is a little more than an eighth the way up, it gets distortion. Also, the overload LED on the panel isn't working properly. It's always on. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's not. We didn't think that was worth fixing.
never took the time to debug it.
No. Now we've got some comments on last week's video. The first one is by an Andrew Bucky, and he's mentioning that he's also been using the Mozzie library on an Arduino synth, and that he's had some trouble with the notes also getting stuck like they were on ours.
Yeah. So what I did last week, I switched back to my own synthesizer, got rid of the Mozzie library. Not that it's bad, but I just wanted to do my stuff, and I found two problems responsible for notes getting stuck. First is the ADSR. When it goes with the note off signal from sustain to release, you create a situation where a note is turned off but still running. And I had to respect that in my note on method, because the note on method will determine which note to turn on next to find a free slot, and the note off method has to find out which note should I really kill now. So I added timestamps to the notes and changed the logic in this a little bit, and now you can do whatever you want. No note gets stuck. It's just great. Yeah, we high-fived yesterday on a perfectly playing synthesizer.
Yeah, and we're going to publish the code and all of that once we have the wavetable synthesizer complete in a week or two, because it's nearing completion. We've gotten really far so far.
Don't underestimate
yes,
the work we have to do with the interface, eh?
Yeah, it might just be 3 months away, but I doubt that. And the second comment we got was from a Nicholas Wood, and he was talking about building another oscillator, but not the 3340 design, because it's too simple to use a single chip. He asked us which oscillator we'd recommend for him to build. Over the years we've built quite a few oscillators before we settled on the 3340, and I have to tell you in advance, none of them will track as well as the 3340s. They will all track okay, but you might lose a semitone over an octave or something, and we couldn't deal with that.
But on the other side, it's a lot of fun to build a VCO from scratch, just using a handful of transistors. And one of the designs we tried is the VCO from the usynth website.
Okay, this one.
This one. And what I did here is, as a proof of concept, I was using the PCB that usynth themselves were publishing on their website. So I can confirm that PCB is working, and the VCO, it's a nice little piece of equipment.
Yeah, it's got a few features. It has linear frequency modulation and exponential frequency modulation. It's a fun little module.
Yeah.
And then we've also got the Music from Outer Space VCO. That's that one. It's huge. The PCB for that is massive. But this is the one we use to test things. It's the one that lives at the workstation.
And this is also a very nice VCO. It sounds very good, but tracking, well, maybe you can get it to track very good if you spend a lot of time tuning it. I did not.
So over the week we've continued work on the wavetable synthesizer. Yesterday we designed and finished the faceplate for the version 1.0. Which would be that. It's not perfect, we've got some problems here, we've nicked the edge a little.
Yeah.
And as you can see, it's got a very intricate design again. I spent a lot of time on that, it was really fun. I look forward to seeing it in action on the full module. So what else did you do last week?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, the release part of the ADSR cycle gave me some headaches.
Yeah.
And in order to debug it better, I used the screen here.
We added a scope to the already existing OLED.
Mm-hmm. And now I broke it.
Yeah, you broke something. Let's turn it up to see what you broke. There we go. And as you can hear again, it does not click as much as it did last week, because we fixed the release cycle and went back to our own synth library.
The clicking sound is something that gave us really a headache.
That was a nightmare. We spent all of Saturday trying to debug that.
Yeah, and the reason for the clicking sound was that the envelope curve, whenever it jumps vertically up or down very quickly, then you hear the click. So one problem was, again, the release cycle. It didn't work for quite a while. After sustain, jumping down to the 0, click. The second, I had a bug in my ADSR machine, where ADSR code, where I did not start the release cycle from the last volume that was done by the ADSR.
So the ADSR went up and then straight down instead of up and going to release from there, if you let go during the attack.
Those were two minor things, but
they were major bugs.
Major bugs, and we also had a little bit of struggle with the audio mixing circuit. Because if you have just one voice, that's simple, but you use all your audio range.
Like the whole 10 volt output.
Yeah, but if you have two voices, what do you do? Yeah.
Do you let it go into clipping? That sounds terrible. Or do you only, let's say you have an 8-voice polyphonic synthesizer, and every note you press adds an eighth of the 10 volt maximum output. That would sound terrible. If you just played a lead line, it would be really quiet.
So what we did is we decided that each voice only contributes 50% of the maximum amplitude. And we just add them up. And when we exceed our maximum volume, we just clip it to the maximum volume. Because this is more or less the most simple procedure as the analog audio mixer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also there, if you fire it up with numerous sources, you will go into clipping. Today I tried another method, just add the voices up and use Arcus Tangens function to clip, and it actually sounded worse.
I wanted to remind you to check out my Instagram if you want to hear some more synthesizer sounds, and also check out the website. That would be fatherandsynthesizer.wordpress.com. On there we've got all the builds that we've previously presented, and hopefully by now also the spring reverb. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and remember, stay curious!